Okay, we're all set. We're back.
We're all set?
Yeah, go ahead.
Jonathan, just a clarification, the reval number at 50, which is reduced from 80 because 80 was what we anticipated was going to be the last of the 5 years that we were putting money away. We are putting the money away for a $225,000 to $250,000 contract, so we're allocating $50,000 a year for the next 5 years. That's how we got to that number.
So that goes to the cost for the reevaluation company.
Correct.
And it went from 50 to 81, but now it's going to stay at 50?
It's going back to 50.
Okay, so that increase I saw, the 81, has now been rolled back to 50?
I believe that was last year's expenditure.
That was to finalize the last payment of the contract this year, the 86.
So we have some overlap this year. 31,000 was due last year, and 50,000 is due this year. So, I just see an expense that went up by 63%, and I'm wondering why.
Last year, not this year. We're going from 86 down to 50 in revaluation.
Jeez, I'm showing the columns show the opposite. Okay, maybe I transposed that because I transposed it into my spreadsheet.
Right,
So
it does say it went down.
it went down. Yeah. Okay, I transposed the number incorrectly.
So the 50 is just an anticipated annual amount.
So, no, now I'm very happy.
For the future.
This is a good line. Okay, thank you.
And one other comment, the Board of Selectmen reduced the department request for the reval claims from $166,000 to $146,000. We reduced it to by $20,000. So just wanted.
Okay, I have a few more.
Is that because Lou's
someone
going to
else
work
take
on
it?
the resident?
No, Jeff.
Oh, Jeff.
Let me ask
Jeff and Lou, all right, don't put it all together. It's a new law firm being formed.
two things. You can do worse.
Exactly, absolutely.
Does anybody else have any other? Jonathan, I know you have a few. I also want to remind the board that we'll be doing this again on Monday night, and I'll explain that at the end of the meeting. But I want you to go ahead if you have more questions. I just want to make sure no one else had anything at this particular moment.
Yep, and it's, so in all fairness to our first selectman here, this budget is very conservative, and some of these items here do not have very high dollar amounts, but I still have some curiosity about some of the increases. So maybe like a couple more. Yep, they might be considered small potatoes. So I looked at one utility line that just caught my eye, and it was with the town properties, and the utility costs for this one particular area went up by 11%. And the reason why that caught my eye is that the other 6 departments were flat to down, but I did find 2 departments with maybe a 4% increase. So the 11 really stood out, and I thought utilities would be pretty consistent.
That's a good catch, Jonathan.
Is it? Did you recognize maybe that it was a little off, or?
What you see there is a budget entry, a new expenditure for the electricity for Town Hall South. We recently concluded negotiations with the Guilford Savings Bank related to their use of parking spaces in the town parking area. This is an agreement that dates back to the 90s, sometime in the 90s. For a significant number of years, the Guilford Savings Bank was paying the utility bills for Town Hall South. All right? In exchange for the use of parking spaces. So Joe actually started this negotiation prior to his leaving to clean it up. So we now have the utility bills come directly to us, and Guilford Savings Bank pays us for the use of those parking spaces. So there is a corresponding revenue offset that is what, $7,000 a month.
Okay.
How's that? It's a good catch, though.
Well, I feel bad that we're only looking at $6,000, but I was $7,000. But I was wondering why it seemed.
No, it's a very good question, Jonathan.
How are we going to save some money if we've got all these reasonable explanations for our higher costs?
Actually, that $7,000 appears in right above GSB parking lot.
You see it?
$7,000 credit. Yep.
All right, so again,
In
not a very
engineering
big-
public works. So.
Not a very big dollar amount, but this one stuck with me a little because I saw some kind of note. And this was employee benefits unemployment compensation.
Right.
And it's going up by 20% or so, and the dollar amount again is about $4,500. So
Right.
Not the hugest concern of the different lines in our budget. But what caught my eye was a notation that said that there was some kind of pattern where we end up hiring a part-time or seasonal employee, and then when they leave and they don't return to school, was the note, that we usually end up paying unemployment compensation.
It happens occasionally. We
Okay.
utilize part-time seasonal employees at Park and Rec. We utilize them at the golf course. Mitch is going to come up here because he'll answer it better than
Yeah.
I can.
Now,
But-
great opportunity for
Right.
kids to work for the town.
It's not only kids.
But I just was curious about that.
Jonathan, they're not just kids.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges we face is with seasonal needs is whether or not to hire full-time people and then not have a use for them during the balance of the year. In addition to paying benefits and salaries for the full year. So the unemployment compensation is basically a trade-off against seasonal employees. It's a cost of doing business.
The reason that's been increased is because I'm trying to budget it more accurately from what we see the current trend being. And that trend shows that we've had some people leave us who have, as they make higher salaries and they leave, we have to pay more in unemployment. But to get back to the seasonal business, as Matt said, a lot of our seasonal employees are not necessarily students. If you're a student, a full-time student, you're not entitled to unemployment. So it's not like camp counselors are filing for unemployment. But we do hire a number of maintenance people, both golf course and Parks and Rec, that will indeed, and they're entitled to file for unemployment, in which we are self-insured in. As a municipality, that's the way the law works, and therefore that's how we pay as we go for unemployment.
All right. I think at this point I might just be trying to see if our first selectman's awake after getting up at 4 a.m. for the storm. But I do appreciate the explanation.
I'm not complaining about being tired. We have employees who have, since last Friday, probably haven't gotten, there are some employees that probably haven't gotten more than a combined 15 or 20 hours of sleep. So I can be a little bit tired given what the other town employees are doing. Thank you anyway, John.
Probably have maybe two more. I don't know if there's some questions on the other side of the table or no? No questions? So this was actually one that I just don't understand, I think, at the end of the day. I saw that the operating transfer for the recycling operations is going to go up, by 50%, even though it's only about $5,000. But I was wondering why. It looks like that was consistently $10,000, and then it popped up to $15,000.
We split the operating cost of the transfer station with Madison.
Yep.
And that's our share of the increased cost to run the facility. Specifics, Mary Jane, I don't know if you have the specifics on what they are, but those are the estimated costs to run the facility.
Okay.
Which include salaries, benefits, et cetera. Ken?
We've talked about this at prior Board of Finance meetings. We lose a little bit of money, I think, on the waste transfer station, or we have. And my comment was, shouldn't that just be a neutral type facility? I mean, you could say it's like the golf course that you're subsidizing, but you could also just raise rates by 50 cents a pound. How much would we have to raise the rates to get it to break even?
Good question. I don't have an answer to that, but I will find one for you. See what the total costs are. That kind of analysis. I will say we've recently made a decision that I think dramatically avoids cost. There's a new requirement that any of the waste oils that used to be deposited at the Guilford Transfer Station needed to be tested for PCBs because the haulers will not take them out anymore. So we have recently enacted a policy where we are no longer going to accept the waste oil deposits, if you will, and that they need to go to because we're a member of the regional hazmat organization, they have to go to New Haven, which is open basically from May through October, whatever. But that was a pretty significant cost avoidance, because every can would have had to have been tested for not one type of PCBs, but there are 7 or 8.
So I think the last questions, right, were about building maintenance, and the library went up a little bit, about $7,000 or so, and not a huge percentage or anything, but I just couldn't figure out why. And then Public Works went
I think
up,
they're painting the second floor of the library as one of
Are you
them.
talking about capital or operating?
library building maintenance line, account for 55,200.
So it's operating.
Oh, operating, yes, I'm sorry.
Do you want me to speak as a selectman or as the former like?
How about both? How about both?
Both.
Come on up, come on up.
The budgets for the library have been coming in at 0 or below, and there was definite increase this year, mainly to deal with HVAC situations and upgrades, because believe it or not, what we call the new library is 10 years old, and there are certain mechanisms or mechanicals that need to be addressed. And so I was involved in preparing this budget to some degree, and there's much more detailed explanation in it, and my brain has left, now since November 30th, but that's the reason. It's all due to...
Was it the annual maintenance contract? Because I saw that, and it didn't have a previous year number in the breakdown, and I thought, it just must be they...
No, it's not the annual maintenance contract. It's more the HVAC units themselves, the rooftop units that need attention, and also upgrading the software system that runs the whole
Management
operation.
software.
Yeah.
Okay.
That line item is 85.
But you can ask Rob McCool.
Actually, I think in your book, your budget book, there's a pretty detailed explanation of those two line items that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's in the background of the library on page 4.
The other one, though, was the Public Works increase for building maintenance. That was a little more substantial. That was a 27% increase. And I was trying to look at what might be driving that, and I thought, maybe they're realizing that we're running high this year, but they look like midway through the year.
I missed the first part. Public Works?
Yeah, this is, this was the second part of the question. The building maintenance at Public Works on their budget line went up by 27%, or about $9,000. And it just seemed like we were kind of coming in the way we should with the numbers so far in 2017-18. And I was just wondering why they needed such a big increase in building maintenance.
I'm going to have to defer to Mary Jane on that. Is it the separator? It is
Public Works.
$9,000 increase for the water separator, water oil separator. So I think realistically that might have gone into capital. It could have gone into capital. But then I probably would have cut it, because that's where I'm going to cut things if you do anything.
I missed it. It's in there. That's it, the 9,000. Yeah,
Yeah, it's right at the top.
it's good, yeah.
You're good?
Yes, thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you. Are you dismissing me, Mr. Chairman?
Anything else before I
Much as you're unused to being
forward.
dismissed from this board.
All right, so, I think what we've done is asked all the questions I think we have, unless we have more for next week, for the workshop number 2. Before I close, we do have an item for public forum. Really? All these people? All right, so here's how, just let me real quick again recap. Not all the questions, obviously, I will not do that. So what we have in front of us, again, just I'll reiterate what I did for the last meeting. Town operating at $1,057,979, 3.69% increase. Education operating budget, $1,097,039, a 1.87% increase, and total debt service is coming in at a change of $617,620 at a 7.84% increase. By the way, all those numbers, dollar numbers, were all the changes that are requested. So we are going to reconvene on Monday night 7:30, March 12th, right here in this room. Weather permitting, again, quick, find me some wood. I'll knock on the wood here on the floor. I did want to just indicate that I will not be able to attend the meeting on Monday. I have a commitment that has to do with my 3 children who are not in this town anymore because they have all gotten older. And I do not feel that it's appropriate for me to change my plans on that because I have not seen my kids since the holidays, and therefore I'm going to relinquish the reins of chairmanship for Monday night to Mr. Gammerman. I will, however, provide comments. I will have something for Mr. Gammerman to read, and
Thank you.
hopefully you will all I will very much miss the deliberation. I'm sure that's what will come down to. I expect it to go no more than 10 minutes, right, Mr. Gammerman?
Maybe 12.
Maybe 12. And I know that there is some idea that we kind of maybe know where we are, but I think tonight it would be, as I mentioned at the outset of this meeting, it would be unfair to be having that discussion and deliberation without the public having the opportunity to comment on everything they've seen and heard, and also on the deliberations that we will be having. So I thank you for that and allowing me to be absent, and I will provide my comments. Is there anything further?
Now, we're going to vote on whether you get the day off. Is that?
No.
I'm kidding, Mr. Chairman.
No, unfortunately, Mr. Trotta does not work on that way on this one. You know, I'm going to make the executive call on that one. Without anything further, any other questions, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.